What is up, everybody? Tony Cutillo here, Tony Cutillo Show. It's Saturday night, man. Where else are you going to be on Saturday night at 12:05? You're somebody like me who's got no life after 10 o'clock on the weekends anymore because I'm old and life is on the second half. You're sitting right here, you're listening, and you're probably watching the Phillies game as well. Listen, Phillies win, obviously 9-5. Lots to talk about, though. Lots to get into. Talking about the trade deadline coming up. Would you make the deals? Would you not make the deals? Some owner comments that are coming out. Now, all of a sudden, John Middleton's popping. I mean, listen, he's not voluntarily giving you information, but people are throwing a microphone in his face, and he is starting to talk. Not too happy, in my opinion, that he's talking. I'd rather him not be talking, if you ask me personally, because I just think that, look, at the end of the day, I want John Middleton to be a cheerleader. I want him to sign the checks. That's all I want him to do. I don't want him to basically talk about draft strategy and free agency and what they did in 09 and 10 and 11 and what they feel like they're gonna do this year. Like I don't want to hear that from Middleton. Okay. That's just not my thing. I don't want to hear that from Middleton. I'll listen to Dombrowski talk about it, and I don't even care if he's just echoing the same statements. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to be around for it. But listen, we're gonna get into that. We're getting a lot of that, and the biggest question of the night. Everybody's checking in as always. If you're checking in, let me know what you're thinking about it. But the biggest question, obviously, and listen, I know it's been done over and over again, but it's what if Phillies make a huge splash at the trade deadline? Now, I'm gonna play what Middleton said today. I'm going to, a couple cuts, which I think are very interesting, very telling. But I also want to get into a couple other things with the Phillies as well. And one of them is Matt Strahm the new closer? And if Matt Strahm is the new closer, why? Please explain to me why. I need to know why. I don't understand. Yeah, we may be getting by right now, but that is not going to end well, in my opinion. So I think we'll get into that. Towards the end of the show. But will the Phillies make a huge splash at the deadline? And did the owner leak the trade deadline details in his earlier press conference? Well, it wasn't really a press conference. It was just him getting a mic thrown in his face. He mentioned about being on Scott Lauber's podcast. He talked about what happened in 09 and 10 and 11 under Ruben. Didn't badmouth Ruben at all. I'll let you hear it. I think it was very telling of kind of what we can expect. I don't know if that's good. I don't know if that's bad, but it was really telling to me about what we can expect as far as the trade deadline, because I think this had a lot of substance to it. So let me share my screen like I always do. I'm going to play the cut, let you listen, let you speak or let you listen and then speak for yourself. When it comes to the clip right here. And again, I think this was from on Patterson. Yeah, Tim Kelly Sports right here. I'll let you listen to it and you tell me. You be the judge. What do you think?
Really good. And one of the things people have to realize is a bullpen in the regular season is an entirely different animal than a bullpen in the postseason. If you go back, I was talking to Dave about this about a month ago, and he said, John, and I think it was 06 when the Tigers, which he was running, played the Cardinals. He said the Cardinals bullpen was very mundane, very average. He said we weren't concerned about it at all. And then they put Adam Wainwright in the bullpen, and overnight it turned into a really, really good bullpen. And so you think about it, we only need three pitchers, and we don't need our fourth pitcher until the fourth game of the division series, right? So you need three pitchers, and everybody else goes to the bullpen. And you're going to have people in the bullpen who are now starting pitchers first. You might see people up. I could see Abel coming back up if he's not up before that for some other reason. I could see Abel in the bullpen coming out at 97 miles an hour with a really good curveball. Painter might be up here the same way. So you never know.
Interesting. Now, I think we could take a lot from that. Again, we could take a lot from that. My man David checking in. What's up, David? As always, if you're checking in, Let me know. Comments are live. I don't care if you're listening on X. I don't care if you're listening on Facebook. I don't care if you're on YouTube. Wherever you're at, throw the comments in. They will come right to me. Some of them a little slower than others will get. If you have a question, if you have a debate, a conversation topic, hit me up. Let me know. If you want to get on the show, obviously we are live right here. And I tell everybody, let me throw it up here. This is very, very simple. This is modern technology, people, right? Modern technology. I have it in the chat. Okay. The chat right here, all right, is going to be the link right there. You see it go up on anywhere that you are listening to this live. A link has just popped up. That link, okay, you see this link right here? Very, very simple. All you need to do for that link right there, all you need to do is you need to click on it, and you don't need a camera. All you need is a phone. You click on it. It's just like calling into the radio station. It's the same thing. Literally click on that link. We'll put you on the air. Talk about what you want to talk about. My man Albert checking in. As always, Albert, what's up, Albert? Checking in from the Windy City. From the Windy City, man. I love it. Checking in from the Windy City. Now, let's go back to that real fast about what he said. He already is talking about taking starters and putting them into the bullpen. He's already talking about bringing up the youngsters, okay, bringing up them and putting them into the bullpen. He even mentioned Andrew Painter. So what does that tell you? What is it already? It's already got your mind flowing a little bit that, in my opinion, they're not going to make this gigantic splash. You know, last year there was a lot of talk, and from what we hear, they were very close, and multiple times they were very close. I don't know the specifics of who they were close with, but they were very, very close, and they decided not to pull the trigger. They decided not to pull the trigger on the prospects. Is that going to be the same this year? I don't know. I don't know. I'm you know, we talked about this on A2D on Philly Unfiltered last week, me and Tom Ornone, and we spoke about it, and we were kind of like back and forth. You know, do you throw all the chips in? Do you not throw all the chips in? But I think it was very telling to hear Middleton come out and specifically talk about young guys coming up and not needing your fourth starter until that championship series. Yeah, he's already, his mind, right? His mind is already flowing. His mind is already talking about what is next if they don't do the deal, what they're thinking in their mind. Now, I'll be honest. You know, what that means is there must have been conversations already. And I'm going to listen. You can't tell me that this team hasn't had conversations with guys like Ranger Suarez, guys like Aaron Nola, right? These guys to say, listen, fellas, what we're building right here, what we're looking towards. Are you or not? Are you? But this is kind of what we're headed. We all know Zach Wheeler is going to be your guy. We already know that. We know Zach Wheeler is going to be your guy. I'm going to be honest. Like, for me personally, I thought it was a foregone conclusion that Ranger Suarez gets dealt at the trade deadline, specifically only because I don't see them being able to afford Ranger Suarez when it comes to the offseason. He's a free agent, Scott Boras' client. He's going to get some major, major, major money. We already know that. They already have Wheeler locked up. They have Noah locked up. They have a young guy, Christopher Sanchez. They have Luzardo locked up for another year. But the big money in the two big pitchers, you know, that's going to be interesting because, you know, they're not going to be able to pay Schwarber and Suarez. And I'm pretty sure they'd much rather pay Schwarber than pay Suarez. So we don't know where that's going to go. But just looking at the pitcher specifically, if you tell me now who's going to be my three, I mean, listen, it's got to be Wheeler, obviously. I mean, that's a no question. But I think it's got to be Christopher Sanchez, and it's got to be Ranger Suarez. If you would have asked me 2 months ago, it would have been Luzardo. But now he's been inconsistent. He could be very, very good, and then he could be hit really, really hard. So for me, if I'm going 3 big money games, I'm going Sanchez, I'm going Suarez, I'm going Wheeler. And that means Nola's going to the bullpen. I don't care what his postseason record is. That means Nola's going to the bullpen. And yeah, guess what? If you do throw Nola in a bullpen and you do throw Luzardo in a bullpen, so now you have Nola in a bullpen, you have Luzardo in a bullpen, and you have Abel or Painter in a bullpen. I'll tell you what, man, with Kerkering right now, and I don't agree. We're gonna get to the Strom topic later, but it's a pretty stellar bullpen if they're all on the same page. And that's without adding a piece. So that's what I get from this. That's what I get from this. Now, would they love a guy in the back end of the bullpen where they could just anoint? I still think I still don't know why they have not anointed Kerkering. I thought that's where we were headed, but unfortunately we're not, it seems like. But I do think that, they would definitely like to add somebody in the back end. We'll see what happens. It's a matter of, are they going to give guys up? Right? My man Fuji's checking in. What's up, Fuji? So again, I take that word from Middleton to say they're not going to go all in. If there's options, they're going to take them, but they're not going to go all in because they already have a plan in their mind about how this bullpen is going to shape up. So right now they're piecemealing it to get them to the playoffs. And I'm going to be honest with you, man. They better be very careful. They better be very careful because think about it. Kruk made a great analogy tonight. Not analogy, but a great point of emphasis when he talked about the NL East, saying that not only the Phillies but the Mets, both those teams, neither one of them have decided to break away. Neither one of them. And I think that's a problem. And, you let teams hang around, whether it be in games or not. You let teams hang around, okay? And when they're hanging around, you never know what's going to happen, man. That's the problem. You just never know what's going to happen. And if you piecemeal this bullpen, and I know you're looking at Alvarado coming back, even though he can't pitch in the playoffs, but he can pitch down the stretch. Listen, man, I don't think you can count on that. I really don't. I don't think you can count on that. And I would hate to see some of this go away specifically because you didn't really bang that bullpen out. Now, a guy I forgot about in Tanner Banks, I think really gets overlooked here. And as long as you don't overuse Tanner Banks, I think he could be a really good, a solid guy out of the pen. He's already showed that, right? He's already showed that. But the problem with guys like Tanner Banks and Matt Strahm is they don't have overpowering stuff. So you have to be very careful. You have to be very careful where you use them and the way you utilize those guys. Now, let's go back to Middleton. I'm going to play another clip for you. And I think this was another good one because this talked about, do we put all our chips in? And one thing I will say, actually, I'll let you let the clip first, and I'll talk about what my mind says and what's been saying about the relationship with Middleton and Dombrowski. But I want to let you hear this clip about Middleton if he should give up all the prospects, right? Let's see. And I'm going to share the screen now, and we're going to listen to this because I think this is another telling answer by our man John Middleton. Here we go.
Talked 4 or 5 years ago about how you wanted the Phillies to be better at developing talent. Now that you have kind of gotten to that point, how difficult is it to balance? You want to keep those guys, but you're also kind of in maybe the back half of a World Series window.
Well, so I agree with Dave. Some of these players are in the back half of their careers for that window, but there are other players who are in the beginning of their window. And so you got to keep thinking about that. I was talking with Scott Lauber the other day for his podcast, and I just cited the fact that if you go back to look at 9, 10, and 11 for us, when Ruben was the general manager, he did an extraordinary job. Got Cliff Lee in 09 at the trade deadline, added Pedro shortly after that. After 09 season, in the offseason, he brought in Roy Halladay, extended him. Brought in Roy Oswald in 10 at the trading deadline, re-signed Cliff, after 10 during the offseason, brought in Hunter Pence. Every move he made, it was an A-plus move. And every player that he brought in performed at a very high level. And we still lost. And not only did we not win the World Series, but we exited every year one round earlier than the year before. And then so if you kind of empty the cupboard, you can do everything right and you still don't win. It's a bad call, it's a bad break, a bad bounce of a ball. It's some guy who just gets ridiculously hot on the other team and beats you. So those things, you have to take that, you have to weigh all that, because we're going to be playing baseball in 5 or 10 years from now, right?
Yeah.
And we want the fans to be excited about the team 5 or 10 years from now. And to do that, you can't just trade everybody and say, well, and by the way, some players you think we should be getting, they're not going to be available. And other players you want us to get, they're going to be available, and it's going to be an arm and a leg, and we're going to say no. I mean, we had that problem last year with Crochet at the trade deadline. We made a spectacularly good offer. So good that Dave looked at me at one point and he said, I don't know that I should be doing this. And he said, you know what? I'm ambivalent. If they take the deal, great. If they don't take the deal, great. I'm really happy with keeping the guys we were going to give them. And that's the way I was. And I think so. You have to balance that. And look, he's got 40 years in the business. Nobody's perfect. Nobody makes every call right, but he's made a lot of them really well. And so you just have to trust Dave to kind of think this through.
That's it. We're going to trust Dave. Did you hear that? We are trusting Dave, right? We are trusting Dave. Listen, there are a lot of stuff right there, I think, hit me really hard. A lot of stuff hit me with that. Number one, he said, again, we need to be good 5 or 10 years from now. He said that. He also said, look, we went all in 09 and 10 and 11, and we still didn't win. And we exited a year earlier every single year. So all these, this is where I always get caught up in the speculation, right? So all this speculation about the Phillies giving up the farm for some of these guys, I think is ridiculous. Because you can't tell me if that's the case, then Dombrowski and Middleton are not on the same page whatsoever. That just shows you right now they're not willing to give up everybody. They're just not. And I personally don't know if that person's out there. Now, I do think that was a very interesting ending when he talked about Garrett Crochet. He said they made an extremely enticing offer to the Red Sox for Garrett Crochet, and they didn't take it. I think that's pretty telling. Now, I'm glad because I think they got a really good guy in Lizardo, and they didn't have to give up the farm. So, and unfortunately, some of those guys they didn't give up could be moved for somebody this year. We'll see. But I do agree with that. I do agree with that. My man Food says, Dombrowski has to be on the hot seat. What are your thoughts? You know what? I don't think he is. Listen, I think that what you hear from Middleton right there, he talks about 40 years of the business. He talks about a guy that specifically that he trusts. He talks about a guy that he knows is going to make the right moves. Also, if you heard him, he said, look, nobody's perfect, right? We know that. Nobody's perfect. And that's what Middleton say. Listen, nobody's perfect. However, he's made a lot of right ones. So I do think that no matter what, I think that, again, this is a move, right? This is a move that's going to be made. And I just don't think it's going to be the move that everybody thinks it's going to be. My man Javon checking in. He says, I agree with Middleton. Where is this team at age-wise? They can't afford to move on from Painter and Crawford specifically, who they may need sooner than later. I don't disagree, man. Javon, I keep saying that over and over and over again. Like you have guys that need to come into play. You can't pay everybody, right? And especially if you have any hopes on keeping Kyle Schwarber, you can't go out there and trade a bunch of these guys for guys that aren't under team control to where it's going to hit you in the pocketbooks. Because I'm telling you right now, I don't think Middleton's willing to go that much higher than he already is. I think he is completely scared because of the investment he put into Trey Turner. I'll say it again, and I'll continue to say it. I think the Trey Turner contract was something that Middleton got pushed into, that Dombrowski got kind of pushed into with Bryce. I think that it was somebody that they liked, and I don't think they thought that they were at first willing to pay that kind of coin for Trey Turner. And because it hasn't, listen, Trey Turner's been really good this year, but again, it still hasn't worked out from the power perspective and the defensive perspective that they thought. And I think that scares the shit out of them. And I think if they say in their mind, you know what, when we get to another kind of class of player like that, I think they're going to kind of bring the reins in a little bit. And I think that's what Middleton's saying. He's like, look, you know what, we can't pay everybody. So I agree with Javon because I consistently say this. You know, I think, again, you can't tell me that bringing Crawford up can't help you. I can't think about it. You know, I just can't think about it. You know, or I should say, I can't think that it's not going to help, especially with the injection of youth. You know, injection of athleticism. It changes the lineup a little bit. You know, it can't hurt, man. It can't hurt. I mean, some of those guys that you're throwing out there, you know, look, right now, Otto Kemp's going to be playing a lot because Alec Boehm's going to be out 3 to 4 weeks. Boehm's going to be up like a month now with a cracked rib. So you're going to have a little more Otto Kemp, a little more Edmundo Sosa. Not saying I hate it. What I'm saying is, look, if you can fill in those guys, come on, man. Crawford can come up here and help. 100%. 100% Foods. 100%. Now, Food says big time Turner was like a Ryan Howard contract. Listen, I kind of disagree with that. You know, Ryan Howard got paid to do what he needed to do. Ryan Howard contract could have went bad because of injury, right? Things happen with Ryan Howard. Nobody expected him to blow out his Achilles. Nobody, right? When you blow out your Achilles, especially as a power hitter, and you're that size, you're never going to be the same. We all knew it. We all knew it. When he went down in the batter's box in St. Louis or at home against St. Louis in that game, we all knew it. It was the worst thing that could have happened. It took everything out of the stadium. We all knew, and Ryan was never the same after that. Trey Turner, his contract is just what it was built on and what he was signed for. It's just not producing. And I don't know about you, but I didn't know he was this bad in the field. I mean, this dude's making so many errors, man. The routine plays. You see him tonight with the base running blunder again. Why did you leave third base? These are things that just shouldn't happen. Right? I know nobody's perfect, but when you pay $300 million for a player, not only do you expect him to go above and beyond, you don't expect him to go backwards. And I kind of feel like in certain situations, Trey Turner has gone backwards a little bit. So that's definitely something that I think we all need to kind of take heed of, because I think that's going to mess with the psyche of Middleton, who's paying all that money. And I think that they look at the age and they're like, look, man, we can only do so much with players above a certain age and above a certain number. I hate to say this, but this could be like very telling what they do in the trade deadline, because this could be that last year with this core. You know, let's just think about this for a minute. You know, what if Kyle Schwarber is not afforded? Meaning you just can't afford Kyle Schwarber. What if you made the mistake, right? What if you made the mistake? And what if you didn't sign him when you should have? Now you allow other teams to entertain offers. Now listen, I'm going to tell you something right now. Somebody is going to overpay for Kyle Schwarber. The longer this goes on, somebody is going to overpay for Kyle Schwarber. And you know what? Let's not get mad. I say this all the time. Please, if Kyle Schwarber decides to sign somewhere else, let's not get mad at Kyle Schwarber. It's not Kyle Schwarber's fault. The Phillies were in the driver's seat. Okay? Remember this. The Phillies were in the driver's seat. They had and still have every opportunity to work out a deal right now before it gets anywhere else. And guess what? They haven't done it. So go blame Dombrowski. Go blame Middleton. Do not blame Kyle Schwarber. Kyle Schwarber should not be blamed in the situation if he decides to go somewhere else. Listen, I hope he continues to be here for the next 3 to 4 years. I just don't know. I just don't know. This is going to be very interesting to see where this goes. It's going to be very, very interesting to see where this goes. Will he get what he deserves here in Philadelphia? Will he? I don't know, man. I don't know. You think about it. You look at where he's at in the lineup. You look at what he's been able to do for this team and for this lineup. You look at, he's really trumped the narrative that he's only a home run hitter. He's trumped the narrative that he can't play the outfield, right? At times. He's trumped the narrative that he can't run the bases. He's trumped the narrative that he can't go and hit 240 or 250. This guy can, man. And other teams are seeing that. So, you go out and you're looking for a guy in your lineup that can really flip things over. You're looking at a guy like Kyle Schwarber, who not only is going to flip things over, but he's also going to give you that steady mentorship to younger players, that steady locker room leader, that steady clubhouse spirit, who's going to continue to keep things even keel and keep things going. If you remember, if you follow me, and again, if you're not following me at Tony Cutillo Show, make sure you are. Give me a follow at Tony Cutillo Show on all platforms, but most importantly, right here on YouTube. Make sure and TikTok. I've been developing a decent audience on TikTok as well. So TikTok, YouTube, they're the main places. I appreciate everybody that's always checking in. If you're on another YouTube page, get over to Tony Cutillo Show YouTube page. I'm basically using that to bring people over. Would be fantastic. Like, subscribe. Javon says losing Schwarber would be bad for the offense and the clubhouse. He really sets the table for the lineup. Home run, single, or walk. Listen, I don't disagree. When I was saying Javon, and I know Javon follows me, and I know he knows, but if you don't, I wrote a couple, well, I should say I created a couple segments on the Tony Cutillo Show in the offseason. And I said the most important guy in this lineup was not Bryce Harper. It was Kyle Schwarber. I said Kyle Schwarber was going to be the MVP of this team. It was very simple because I knew he was not going to bat leadoff. And I knew that he made this team go. He did. A lot of people are like, oh, with Bryce, no, it's with Kyle they go, man. All those, when these players are leaving guys, running and scoring position, guess what? Guess what, man? Like, again, when, Kyle Schwarber's not doing that. Kyle Schwarber's not doing that. My man Jack checking in. What's up, Jack? He says, I think they plan on Kyle leaving to open up DH for Brittle Price. Jack, come on, man. Brittle Price is in a good home run land tonight, man. Brittle Price is hot right now. Listen, listen, Jack, I'll be honest with you. We were debating this a while ago. He definitely hasn't been the soldier of health since we've signed him, right? So, and here's a guy who's been playing for the last 12, 13, 14 years because he started so young and been playing hard and been playing violently and going out there. It's like in this city, Jack, and you know this, and Jack, I appreciate you checking in. If you're not a subscriber, I appreciate you subscribe and like the channel. Keep you on here, keep you flowing, and keep it checking in. But just remember, it reminds you of the AI, but in baseball, meaning, Allen Iverson, the biggest thing with AI was, listen, we love every minute of AI, but we knew that he played with such reckless abandonment and that Bryce takes care of himself compared to AI, but still AI, we knew he would break down. It would be hard. And that's what started to happen. So, listen, I think Bryce, I'm not ready to call him brittle yet, but I definitely think that we are seeing the last year or two of him being the top player on a team. Maybe he could be a 1B. I just don't. Listen, I hope I'm wrong. I just don't think he's always going to be 1A anymore. I really don't. Javon says, and if Schwarber goes, do you put Castellanos at DH given his defensive woes? Yeah, that's the thing. So Castellanos is under contract for one more year. You know what, Javon, I am sold on the fact that Nick Castellanos gets moved to the trade deadline. I really am. I just, and Javon, you know as well as I do, where there's smoke, there's fire, right? And when that whole benching came out with him and Topper, and whether it be Nick, whether it be his wife, whether it be his sister, who was just all over social media. Nick was writing cryptic messages. He was saying cryptic things. There was a lot of bad vibes right there. A lot of bad vibes. And I'm going to be honest with you, on a team that is driven to really get to this level, and a little crack in the armor happens like that, and then you start hearing about, well, trade deadline talk, and will they move Nick Castellanos? I definitely think Nick Castellanos is being shopped. And I would be surprised if we don't, or I should say, I will be surprised if we have Casty here next year. I will. He's got one. Listen, he is a decent chip right now because he still has 1 year left on his deal. And he could still contribute in a big way at multiple positions and as DH. So I do think that he offers that. Listen, if there's a team just like the Phillies in a different situation, I do think that he's a tradable commodity for a really good bullpen arm. A closer, no, but I do think he could get a deal for something like that. I really, really do. So I would be surprised, Javon, if he's still here. But if he is, I think he has to be your DH. And then you start taking those questions. Does Bryce move out to the outfield again? Does Nick Castellanos play first base? Does he, because maybe they got to you want to put Schwarber out, or Bryce out in right field again. I don't know. There's so many different scenarios that can come out of this. That's why I think this trade deadline is going to be a lot bigger than a lot of people think. Food says, do you I say no. Like if you ask me what do you feel? No. I think it's nearly impossible for the Philadelphia Phillies to sign Ranger Suarez. I honestly do. You have to look at it from their standpoint, right? I love Ranger. Does Ranger check all the boxes? The only thing we don't know about the boxes is the stamina, meaning the year-long stamina. Does he last? Has he proven to be able to hold up, to be healthy for an entire year, not be under pitch counters, not be under inning clocks, right? So I think there's a lot of different things that we have to look at. However, the very simple math is how much money would you like to spend on your rotation? Especially when you have guys like Mick Abel and like Andrew Painter that are ready to step in. That's assuming that they don't get dealt at the trade deadline. See, that's why I keep saying I don't see a scenario where they go all in, because I think there's so much for them to think about, right? I think it's so much for them to think about. Listen, this is a great comment by my man Jack here, because this is exactly where I was going. So Jack says, signing Nola to a big long contract and it's the key point, with a no trade clause was malpractice. Jack, 100% spot on. And that's another contract that hinders what they do. So essentially, if you think about this, you essentially traded Ranger Suarez for Aaron Nola. If you think about it, that's what you did. You decided to pay Aaron Nola, and because of that, you're not going to be able to re-sign Ranger Suarez. It's very simple. Very, very simple. So that's what you decide to do. So we have to see how that all plays out. But that's the case, right? Because you're going to have two top tier pitchers, which is Wheeler and Nola. And then the other three are going to be under team control, which is Sanchez, Luzardo, and one of the rookies. Very simple. They're like Food says, the Phillies won't pay three pitchers over 20 million. Hell no. They won't. I'm telling you, there's no way they will because they still have to pay everybody else. That's what everybody forgets, man. The payroll for the Phillies, even though they are a national attraction, even though they are bringing in big time revenue, they're only going to go so far and so high. They really are. So that's why I keep thinking that they're not going to make this big splash. But I want to get to another question, and that's going to be about the closer. And I want to put it up on the screen. And again, I want to ask this: Is Matt Strahm the new closer? And if so, why? Like, I go back and forth with people sometimes on social media. And again, if you're checking in, keep the comments up, keep engaging. Let me know what you want to talk about. But I'm curious what everybody thinks about this Matt Strahm role. It was 3 weeks ago I came on here, and a lot of people were talking about it, was when it seemed like Orion Kerkering was going to be anointed the new closer. He was basically going to be given that role. He closed out the game. They were even asking him at the post-game press conference how you feel. And ever since that time, I don't know what happened, but now all of a sudden Topper looks like he's going and leaning Matt Strahm. I don't get it. Maybe I'm wrong here, but I think your closer has to be able to throw more than 3 pitches consistently. And I think your closer needs to be able to, I would say, hit higher than 93 on the gun. Matt Strahm is a crafty pitcher. By no means is he a closer. You don't come in on multiple times and walk the first batter. You don't come in and give up a couple 2 hits and be lucky to get out with a pop up or a double play. It just shows that again. I don't think you should be in a role. Javon says Kerkering should have been the closer. Yes, 100%. Don't understand why Strahm is the guy. He doesn't have no. Javon, that's my just like I just said. That's my issue. This guy does not put any fear into me whatsoever. And that's my biggest thing. If he's not putting fear into me, why the hell would he put fear into opposing players? And I don't want to hear Topper talk about battle tested. I don't want to hear Topper talk about I trust him. And no, I'm tired of that, man. Tired of that. There's no reason why Matt Strahm should be closing on this team. I don't care if it's worked out up to this point. I don't care if people have a different opinion. It doesn't matter. It's very simple. You look at what a closer is supposed to be. It's why guys fear Billy Wagner. It's why guys fear when he was going well, Jonathan Papelbon, Edwin Diaz, right? These guys, they have this big electric entrance. It's the way they get themselves pumped up. It's the way they come out. They have overpowering stuff. Hear that? Overpowering stuff. Just like Javon said, just like I said, where is Strahm's overpowering stuff? It's non-existent. And if you're already shaky in June, July, and August, how the hell are you not going to be shaky in September and October? Javon says, who puts fear into guys? John Duran from Minnesota. Shoot, I'll take David Bednar. Listen, there's so many guys, right? Duran's a good one from Minnesota. Honestly, he's a good one from Minnesota. I know, we're what's the guy from Cleveland, Class A, that they're talking about? Does he put fear into players? Does he put fear into players? I don't know, man. I don't know. I look at past closers and I look at what their stuff was, you look at just stick with the Phillies, right? You look at guys like Billy Wagner and Brad Lidge. They had 2-3 pitches tops, but they had that one deadly pitch. I think that's what Orion Kerkering makes himself or separates himself from the pack. I feel like that's what makes Orion Kerkering unique. Here's a guy with like 6 to 7 pitches. Like, you talk about putting the fear into people. Man, why don't you just give this kid this damn role? Let him establish it, right? Let him establish it for the next 2 to 3 months. And I'll tell you what, man, I have all faith that this kid will lock down that role and he will be a lockdown closer for you for years to come. Honestly, I felt this way since I've seen him. And I listen, I know he was a rookie, came up, in Houston in that World Series, and he's been up and down ever since. But I'm going to continue to echo the same statement I say over and over again. A lot of times, the psyche of a young pitcher, it moves with confidence. And that confidence comes from your manager, from your skip, saying, Orion, it's yours, man. I got you, buddy. Not saying you did a great job tonight, but I want you to pitch the 7th inning tonight. Did a great job tonight, but I want to pitch the 6th inning tonight. Did a good job. You know what? I'll give you the closer tonight. Nah, man, listen. That does not symbolize confidence. And even if you don't think there's a problem with that, you have to understand the psyche of a younger guy, of a younger pitcher. Like, especially when you got that momentum going, you got those juices going. You want to keep that kid going, man. You want to keep that kid going. You don't think he questions, right? You don't think he questions himself and says, damn, I thought I pitched my ass off yesterday. And now all of a sudden Skit's got me pitching the 7th inning again. You don't think that's a question right there in his head? Hell yeah, it is. I would be that way, right? Wouldn't you? I mean, listen, I question myself all the time with things every day in life, whether it be in a publicity role, a host role, a sports betting guy, a public relations coach, a consultant, whatever it is, the many hats that I wear. Okay, I question myself all the time with things that are said to me or things that are said quietly that I can kind of read. So that situation is kind of odd to me. It really is. So I don't know. I thought it was just like kind of a thing where maybe he wanted Kerkering to face a different part of the lineup because we know how Topper gets like that. But I'll tell you, man, I don't see it. I think he's sticking with Schramm, and I don't get it, man. And I don't think Schramm has, just like Javon says, the closure stuff. And to me, he's way too shaky. Man, Jack checking in again says, unless the Phillies make Rojas choke up on the bat, become a slap hitter, he's just a waste of game-changing speed. I don't disagree, man. Jack, what bothers me about Rojas, and I like the guy, and I think he could be a phenomenal defender. He's got great speed, but, sometimes, and I say it, I when I coached softball for so many years, a lot of times people would talk about, some of these fantastic players. And the first thing I would say is, listen, she could be a phenomenal talent. She could be an absolute beast from a physical standpoint. But if she has 0 softball IQ, doesn't matter. And I think Rojas has his baseball IQ is very, very minimal. And I think that's the problem. I do. I think that's the problem. This guy should be a bunting machine right now. Just like you said, he should be, just like you said, Jack, he should be a guy that's slap hitting, right? He should be a guy that can consistently get on base, right? He really should be. But unfortunately, he's not. And it's just like Alec Boehm at 25 and 20, going on 26. If he's not at this point, I don't think he ever will be. Right? I don't think he ever will be. And I think that's what really boggles my mind is if we don't see it now, we're never going to see it. So if we just keep jamming this guy in there, but on the other end, though, on the other end of the spectrum, we shouldn't be worried about Johan Rojas. If the rest of our lineup is doing what it's supposed to do, we should not have to worry about Johan Rojas. Very, very simple. Very, very simple, man. Very simple. But a trade deadline is coming. I mean, what are we, like 7, 8 days away? It's going to be very, very interesting. One of my favorite times, to be honest with you. Like I always love watching the deadline deals. I do. I love to see who's going where, and lately it's been like it hasn't been the day of. It's been like a couple days, prior to the trade deadline. They've been they've really put the groundwork in beforehand. So it's been a lot less lackluster, or I should say a lot a very, very lackluster trade deadline show. But I do think the Phillies will make a couple moves. I hope they're bigger than Austin Hayes, but I certainly don't want to give up the farm. I don't want to give up the farm. I don't want to give up everything that we have. I'm willing to part with some. I don't want to part with all. I don't care. I don't want. I'm not only getting into the argument about they're a dime a dozen and they're prospects, so you don't know if they're going to work out. I understand all of that, but I do agree with Middleton a little bit, where he says, "Listen, we want to be able to win in 5 to 10 years too." And if you remember, the reason why the Phillies were so bad for a while, until they faced the Rockies in the playoffs in 2007, was because they gave up so much of their farm system in order to try to win now. And as much as I loved it, you look at it now as it costs us a lot of years. So if you could kind of juggle this a little bit to where you don't give up the entire farm, but you can give up a couple of the animals in the pen, then I would say, you know what? No problem. But I want to continue to win, man. I do, or have the opportunity. Javon says Crawford, Painter, Miller, and Tate have to stay. I agree. I do. I agree, Javon. I said this a couple weeks ago, and maybe it's just me. Maybe it's the lineage, but I am a gigantic Justin Crawford fan. I think this kid's going to be a hell of a player. I do, man. Like I say this multiple times. When you have the blood of a professional athlete, it's not about talent, it's about mindset. And it's about a supporting cast. It's about advocacy. It's about having your family advocate for you, having your family mentor you because they've been there. Right. So you got Carl Crawford, who had a very, very good career, with the Tampa Bay Rays specifically. But you look at what his mindset was, how it shifts to his son. And now, even if you're not the superstar that you want to be, your mindset has superstar mentality. And I think that's something that we forget about. And I think that's something that we really don't take precedent to, when we have these conversations. I love Crawford. I think he's going to be a phenomenal player. Andrew Painter, I love. Right. I do. I love it. I think he's got knockdown stuff. He's got Paul Skeens type stuff. It's just a matter of can we control it. And listen, when we talk about Miller, we already know he's your infielder of the future, man. Like we already know this. So why would we get rid of Aiden Miller? So these guys, yes, these guys to me have to stay. Now, did you damage the talent prospect, eval, or did you damage the talent evaluation of Mick Abel when he came up? And, at first he was good. And Again, oh yeah, that's right. Yo, Jack checking in. Don't forget his cousin JP Crawford, right? Over there doing big things in Seattle now for the Mariners. JP Crawford. I always forgot about that, man. Crawford's all over. Yeah. And again, Jack, you know that. Like when you have that lineage, right? You're already set up. You're already set up for success. So I think that's a really, really big deal. So listen, man, we go 50 minutes. I usually try to go about half hour, 45 minutes, possibly an hour. Listen, if going on, I'm really trying to figure this out as we go. You guys know I do a lot of stuff. I do a lot of different content for different outlets for different things. I'm really trying to latch on somewhere. I would quite honestly would love to be back on Sirius soon. We'll see how that works out. But I love talking fantasy football. I love talking sports betting. I love talking Philadelphia sports. I love talking not just Philly. So I try to give a little bit of everything. So make sure you follow the show at Tony Cutillo Show on YouTube. You'll get your sports betting stuff. You're going to get your fantasy stuff. You're going to get your Philly sports, but you're also going to get your other topics like wrestling. You're going to get, just general NFL talk. You're going to get general baseball talk with Beyond the Bases. You're going to get the pins and knockouts, right? Like, again, Albert, my man says, this is a comment at night, brother. You should definitely be on. Listen, Albert, you know this as well as I do because you've listened to me. And I don't know what it is. This is a knock on anybody, but I'm fully confident that I can hold my own with 85 to 90% of the hosts that are on Sirius XM. And I'm being honest, like, I'm not saying they're not good. I'm just saying I can hold my own, meaning I could do just as good as those people. And that's no disrespect. It's because I have the experience just like them, right? So I work my ass off when it comes to this stuff. All I will say to this to everybody, and I continue to say this, and this is I have to start being a little more cocky, right? And it's all about confidence. It's 52 minutes and 27 seconds right now. I will say to you, please find me the next person that can solo a show for 1 to 2 hours and not have any breaks, not have any pauses, and continue to make it interesting. I'm not saying, I may not be interesting for everybody, but what I'm saying is I've prided myself being able to do that. So I wouldn't say, hey, I need somebody with me. I need, like, my goal. I love doing solo shows. I don't mind doing solo shows. Love having guests. Love having engagement. That's what I love to do. Okay, that's what I love to do. However, it needs to work for me. It's very, very simple. It needs to work for me. I'm at that point, right? So for right now, at the Tony Cutillo Show on YouTube, very easy. And I have everything broken down in that in playlist script, man. It's got your NFL, you got the playlist. MLB, NBA, playlist. Wrestling, playlist. Fantasy sports, playlist. Sports betting, playlist. Very, very simple. I'm probably going to take a break, and I'm going to I'll be recording some more fantasy content that'll be on there. I'm right now, a lot of people getting ready for drafts. You got a good, probably like week and a half to 2 weeks of really hardcore talk when it comes to draft. Big deal. And by the way, if you're listening right now, because we've got over 100 people live watching and tuning in right now, which I love every minute of that. Make sure you check out the Fighting for Overtime podcast. I say all the time, Fighting for Overtime podcast. It's a youth sports podcast. I continue to grow that in the background. It has its own platform. Very, very simple. It's literally youth sports talk, but it's real talk. It's real experiences. It's real people, whether it be coaches, whether it be players, whether it be families, whether it be parents. I mean, there's a lot of stuff on that show, a lot of emotion that goes into that podcast. So check that out as well. And you just never know, man. Just never know. You never know where I'm going to wind up. You never know. Maybe somebody I don't know. Who knows? And guess what? If nobody wants good old T here, you'll be right here on the Tony Cutillo Show. But as always, it's Saturday night, man. Everybody have a fantastic weekend. I will be back tomorrow night. I'm gonna hop on tomorrow night. I'm really gonna try to do this like almost literally like every night. I really want to get the pulse of everybody. And again, it's not just for like tomorrow night will be something completely different. I don't want to get on here every day and talk Philadelphia sports. That's why it's not just Philly. I'm probably going to touch on some NFL and some NBA talk tomorrow night. We talked about me and Sia talked about the Kobe list, Kobe not being the top 10. That opened up a whole new a whole new segment of information. So I would love to talk about some NBA players that don't get the notoriety that I feel like they should. So as always, everybody, like I say, stay healthy. Make sure you like and subscribe. I'll talk to you tomorrow night. Everybody, man, thanks for tuning in.